Hey, everybody, this is Catherine Barnes on the Wonderful Being podcast slash video blog. And today I'm really excited because I have my friend and former colleague, Erica Buechner, on the show. Erica, thanks so much for hanging out with me today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, Catherine.
So Erica does all the things. I'm going to do a short list of things I know Erica does. And then Erica, you tell me if I'm missing anything. Erica's a dancer. She's a choreographer. She's a producer. She's a fitness expert and gym owner. Did I miss anything?
No, that's the main stuff. Yeah.
That's the complete list. Okay, cool. So the first thing I want to know is dance or fitness, which came first, or was it like at the same time?
Ooh, that's a good question. If I really think back, like in some ways they were simultaneous. So I have a brother that's 10 years older than me, and he, had all the like free weights and like used to work out, and I was still enamored by my older brother. I know.
Nice.
And so like, yeah, I would like see him do things, and then I would like, try push-ups or lifting the weights. But then my two older sisters danced because I'm the youngest of four. And they used to come home from their dance classes and like show their routines, and I would like learn them and practice them. And like I choreographed my first dance when I was like 6 years old or something. I used to show it to everybody. I've always just loved being like physical. So in some ways, like they've always been there like simultaneously. But if we're going into like formal training, dance came first. I started dancing really like, formally and somewhat professionally, like in sixth grade. I took a summer workshop. It was like a 3-week workshop, and I just like fell in love, and I just started dancing like all the time, taking as many classes as I could and getting really formal training, doing professional workshops when I, could get to them. My mom was so sweet. She used to drive me to them when before I could drive. And so that was like so formal training was definitely dance first. And then it really wasn't until I met Oz that I did more formal training in fitness. So.
Okay, wow. So you talk about formal training and dance. Like, how many different styles did you get trained in?
Yeah, I've done a lot of styles because I love all dance. I've never tried a dance style that I didn't enjoy. I find them all fun and challenging, and everything from like the polka, like I love the polka, to ballet, right? I've trained in a lot of styles, but as far as like real in-depth training, mostly I started with ballet, and then I quickly hung on to modern dance, or contemporary is kind of what it's called now, / contemporary, somewhat new now. And then I did a fair amount of jazz. So kind of your traditional concert dance styles were really the main ones that I have like really formal training in, and extensive formal training in, modern contemporary being the most extensive. But I've taken tons of different dance classes because I love it all. So
That's awesome. And so you mentioned like kind of starting to go pro like as early as the sixth grade. When was it that you said, okay, like this is what I want to do for a living?
yeah. So I met the woman that I danced for, Faith Jensen Ismay, who has Mojole Dance Collective. I met her when I was in sixth grade. So I was 12 years old. And I loved taking her class, and I took her class as much as I could. I actually started taking college classes because she used to teach at Palomar College, the community college. And I took her classes all through high school there. And then I formally got into her company when I guess it was like a year and a half after I graduated from high school. So I was like 19, I want to say, because yeah, I graduated when I was 17. So I was 19 when I formally got into her company. Just continued doing it. But even at that point, I didn't necessarily think that it was going to be a career. I think that's something that's somewhat like being an artist, you always question that. Like, is this really going to be a career? You know? And even when you're doing it, you're like, is this a career? Like, you know, what like, there because it's hard and it's not encouraged. And you know, you don't make a ton of money doing it. So it took me a while to realize that everything I was doing was basically being like creating a career in dance. I was teaching classes, I was dancing for a professional company, and I was going to school for dance. It's like, what else more could, like, how many more like arrows could you point to say like, oh, look what you're doing, you're dancing. This is what you want to do. But I denied it for a really long time. And then finally, Faith really is the one that said, Erica, you really should go finish your degree and like, you know, see where you can go. She's like, I think you would be a great high school teacher. She supported my choreography as I started to create more work. And so then I finally transferred and finished my degree at a four-year college after being at community college for a long time. And then kind of just kept going from there. After that, went and got my master's quite a few years later, but still like, so I think went to San Diego State. I think going to San Diego State and formally like finishing my bachelor's degree in dance was when I finally realized like, oh yes, you're trying to get a career in dance. So I was 26 when I graduated from San Diego State. So yeah.
Awesome. And it sounds like you'd already been choreographing by that time. Did that kind of happen at the same time as you were like learning to dance and taking all these classes?
Yeah. So there were opportunities at Palomar College a little bit, I think, if I remember right, to do some stuff. In the like there was, you know, just like small independent artists that were kind of creating work here and there. And so I dabbled in it a little bit, and I look back at, you know, some of that choreography and it was somewhat simple, you know, but that's okay. So I kind of been doing it for a while. And then obviously when you go to school, like, you know, you go to like a four-year college for dance. Well, I guess it probably depends on the program, but my four-year college, a lot of the focus was on creating choreography. So it was at San Diego State that I started really creating more. And then actually the reason I quit the company was to create my own work more often. Because we rehearsed a lot, which is not a bad thing. But all of my kind of creative energy was going into, you know, remembering and doing and participating in the work of the company. And I realized that if I was going to develop my own artistic voice, I needed to step away from the company so that because basically to be frank, like my work looked a lot like the work from the company, right? Because that was what I trained in the most. So and again, not a bad thing, just realizing like if I'm going to create my own artistic voice, I need to kind of step away from that so that I can get other influences in my life and hopefully develop something that is unique. Yeah.
Wow. So I bet that was a hard decision to make.
It was a really hard decision to make. It was a long time coming. I had probably a good 3 years of like waiting before I actually did it. I'd been thinking about it. I wasn't so sure because I was kind of like, if I don't do this, you know, what am I going to do? There was, you know, people knew me in the community as a performer for the company. And I was, you know, still dancing well and I enjoyed doing it and stuff. And we traveled and that was really cool. So I was kind of letting go of a lot. So it was probably about 3 years where I was hemming and hawing and on the fence. And finally, a good friend of mine and I actually did it together, which I don't know if that was like, we just, no, we were like, let's do it together. So yeah, but it was a hard decision. Yeah. And I still go watch them perform all the time. And every once in a while I watch and go, like, would I enjoy, you know, am I missing out on not performing as often? And I think I performed enough that I'm okay with it now. Like, but it was the first year or two when I wasn't performing as often. It was a little challenging.
Hmm. So when you made that really big decision, did you in fact get to create more of your own work? And what was that work like?
Yeah, so I actually did. So I had the bandwidth then to produce a arts fest. What did we call it? I think we called it an arts exhibition or something like that, in San Diego for 7 years, 8 years, I think 8 years we did it. So I was seeking out other choreographic opportunities, and then there was two other dancers that I met who we decided to get together and produce our own, like, kind of, I don't know, festival. I don't know what you would call it, but basically what it was is we wanted to create an event where there was dance for emerging artists. There was live music and there was visual art. And so we created U-Turn Arts. It was called U-Turn Arts. It was originally called U-Turn Contemporary Arts Exhibition. And then we shortened that to U-Turn Arts a couple of years after. And we produced a big show once a year. We brought in artists from New York, from San Francisco, from Seattle, from New York. I already said New York. Well, we brought two different artists from New York. That's why I said it twice. And then we also sometimes choreographed ourselves. Sometimes we would invite other local choreographers to create in the show. And it was a really kind of a big fun festival that we did. And we would always bring live music in, and, we paid the musicians relatively well. And then we would bring visual artists in, and they we did different things. Sometimes they were creating live, sometimes they were just, sharing their work, and then it was for sale. And we had like food and drink, and it was just like a kind of a really fun event that we put on. So I was really proud of that. We did that for, I think it was 7 years.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's a good solid chunk of time. And I'm bummed that I never heard about it.
Yeah. I think it was, so let's see, when was the last one we did? 2017 may have been our very last one. So I think I had just started working with you like a year or two prior. So I probably wasn't big on, and I'm terrible at promoting. So yeah.
That's so funny. Okay, let's bookmark that. Erica's terrible at promoting. We're gonna come back to that because like I want to ask you a little bit more about that. But like, tell me a little bit about your work that you do. I know you've got one coming up that I'm really excited about, which I'll make sure that you give all those details at the end of the interview so people know where to get their tickets. But you've got Sauced coming up at Art Produce in North Park, and like I guess this one, the theme is about being drunk, right?
It is.
Love it.
It's about drinking, being drunk. Yeah. It's so we did 5 years ago, Art Produce, it was called Dinner Dances. And all of the songs / choreography was themed around food. Mm-hmm. And so I was just a choreographer that year, and performer, sorry. And I created, I think it was 3 works for that one. One of them was oh my gosh, I'm forgetting now. I think it was a Christina Aguilera song. It was like sassy and like, it was to Candyman. And it was like, super sassy and just kind of fun. I created a solo to a really beautiful song. This was a more serious piece to a Tori Amos song called Baker Baker, and kind of explored the ideas of kind of like what it's like to go out to a restaurant by yourself, and how that feels.
Wait, I have to stop because that's really cool and interesting. Because, okay, first of all, I thought I was the only one that did that.
Yeah.
Second of all, it's always like a really crappy experience, especially I think if you're like, I know men who say like, you just need to take yourself out to a restaurant on a date. And I'm like, okay, if you're a man and you do that, people are like, oh, how cool, how nice. If you're a woman and you do that, people pity you.
They do. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many times I've watched things. I'll go out to eat by myself. And yeah, you sit down and I like the little tiny, you know, we talk about like microaggressions, right? The little tiny, like, oh, only one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, yes. And just, you know, sometimes, oh, are you waiting for, no, I'm not waiting for anyone. Like, can I please order? So yes, I'm with you on that for sure. Yeah, it is a unique experience. And I think probably, yeah, way more unique being a woman than being a man for sure.
But you made a dance about it.
But
And
I kind of made a dance
it.
about it. Yeah, yeah. And it was, yeah. So it was kind of the low, like kind of serious part of the show. And then I had a really fun piece. So I just, you know, I love to, when I create something, I love to just Google like songs about whatever, you know, and like you'd be surprised what you find. So I found this song called Don't Eat Stuff Off the Sidewalk. And I can't remember who it was by now. It was like the Kinks or I don't know, something. It was like, go ahead.
I feel like my former students need to hear that song. I feel like that's a message that like many like middle school aged kids would do well to internalize. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
You should look it up. It is a wacky song. And I loved creating to it. And I did this kind of double duet where it was one like couple was in a fight and one couple was like getting it on basically over dinner. And there was cake involved that got smeared on bodies and on the window, and it was fantastic. So
that sounds very Mojole to me. Does that reflect the Mojole influence on your work?
So one of the influences that both Faith Jensen Ismay from Mojole and myself have had is Patricia Sandbeck. So Patricia Sandbeck has been in San Diego forever. She used to teach at SDSU. She was there when I was there. She was there when Faith was there. And she has a really unique creative process, and she uses a lot of props and she uses obscure music, and she does more kind of what we would call dance theater. Pat's a huge influence on me. A lot of people kind of say like, oh, you know, your work reminds me a lot, like more of Pat than Faith now. Mm-hmm. Because I love dance theater. And I think part of that is even, you know, having worked with the theater department at the school for a long time now, mm-hmm. I think it's even developed that slightly more. So yes, so she and I have like the same influence in some ways. And so you'll see Faith's work or Mojole's work kind of go that route sometimes too, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. And so would you say, I mean, of course there is a difference, but like, can you talk a little bit about the difference between like choreographing for theater, which I know you've done a lot, and also like these dance shows that you do? Like, how is the process different?
I think, well, the process, especially for like middle school and upper school theater, is much simpler. It is, it's simpler in two, well, probably more than two ways, but two that are coming to mind. One is, you know, we're putting these shows together fast and they're not necessarily super strong dancers. So you have to just find simple, fun movement that works on these students that they can pick up quickly and feel good doing, right? And then two, in theater, when it's just straight theater, the song and the story of, you know, all the dialogue in what they're showing is telling the story. So the dance is just kind of like enhancing that idea. It's not really telling the story, right? Whereas when you're kind of working just purely with dance or dance theater, the dancing is what tells the story, right? So your music is maybe supporting that story. You might have dialogue, you know, which could be a part of it, that's supporting that story, but ultimately the story is coming from the movement itself. the creative process is much different, because one is like, okay, well, what kind of, fun steps will go really well to the song and make the audience kind of go like, wow, that was fun, right? Or what movements are really going to dive deep into, expressing what I want to express through the body. So it is very different. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So I like what you said about express what you want to express through the body. So let's segue a little bit into your interest in fitness. So that
Okay.
started when you met Oz, right?
Yeah. So when I first met Oz has always been super physical. Oz, Aponte, my husband, he's always been super physical. And, been a trainer for a really long time, and just, kept himself in like peak physical condition. And he danced some. That's actually how we met. And then when I first started, when we first started dating, we would go to dance classes together, or we would like go work out together a little bit. And he, wanted to teach me kettlebells, because that's what he had, was recently learning and training in, and felt like it had a really, just was really beneficial in a lot of ways, strength training and just, stabilization and balance, all the things. It does all the things, right? Mobility, everything. So when I was first kind of getting into it, I was like, I don't know, I was not so sure. And I kind of dabbled in it for a little bit, and, learned the kettlebell swing and did it sometimes. And, just wasn't like super into it at first. But then about, oh gosh, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, what? I really want to like learn more about this and get into this a little bit more. So basically he kind of went back and like retrained me again on all the skills. And I was like, okay, I'm really liking this. And I think part of it was because I wasn't dancing as much. So, I needed something new, to kind of like a new skill to develop. And I just was like, wow, this is amazing and powerful. And my strength just started to like skyrocket.
Really?
Oh yeah. I am so much stronger now in my 40s than I ever was in my 20s. Like so much stronger. Yeah. And my body feels 10 times better. Aches and pains are gone, like everything. So,
Wait, from kettlebells.
From kettlebells. Yes.
And I'm also still processing the fact that there are skills that go with kettlebells.
Oh my gosh. It is like, if you have to learn proper kettlebell technique in order to do it, because you could injure yourself. I mean, that's with anything. You can injure yourself trying to, doing a terrible push-up, right? But because your body is weight, right? So even body weight exercises, you need proper form for. And I think that's what like I didn't have the time for or interest in prior, was like really understanding about like learning form. Because I think I spent all my energy on learning dance form, right? And I was interested in that. But when I finally realized that like all of these skills were so applicable, even to dancing, which I didn't realize at the time at first, but even my dancing improved as I started to get stronger and like understand integration through my body and through my center, and like how to find, we call it like strength through length, and like all these things that the kettlebell can help you do. I just like, I just took off with it, and I was like, I want to get certified and I want to learn more. And I was feeling healthier. And like I said, so much stronger. So it became a really important thing for me. And still is, to this day, especially now with owning the gym and teaching at the gym. And I love sharing that with people. I love seeing people like get something, or, just a couple of weeks ago, there was a woman, and I was really working with her on like how to engage like her low belly, to help support her spine while, lifting. And she was like, wait, I think I got it. She was like, I've never engaged that before, And I was like, yes, I was like, that's it. And like, you got to like do that and keep doing that. Cause like, if you can like engage that and get that area of your body strong, like you're going to skyrocket in all these other areas. Cause you're supporting the core, which is right. Iron core. Like it's about getting the core strong because all movement travels, through that center of your body. Force is traveled through that whole center of our body. This idea that we can like work our arms and like work our legs separate is like it's an old way of thinking, because all movement has to pass through the whole body.
Wow,
So,
that's wild. That almost sounds like stuff I hear my Alexander technique teachers say. And that's so crazy.
totally.
When I think kettlebells, I think like meathead, right? But you just described
Right.
a thing that's like a very, sort of, to use those buzzwords that my gym rat father hates, integrative and holistic kind of
Yeah,
perspective.
it totally is. It totally is. Like, one of the things, there's mindfulness in it. Like we'll say to the students, like, if you're not focused, the kettlebell will like tell you what's up, right? Because because if you lose focus while you're swinging this huge ass weight in front of you, right? Like it will take over and you will not like it, like, so there's a sense of like mindfulness and focus that you have to have. And it's, I've had times where I have worked out and for 45 minutes to an hour, like I'm just like so like away from the rest of the world. So I love that about that, because I'm just thinking about technique and form and just really giving the respect to that present moment, right? So yeah, it's not mindless movement. And that's the thing, is like going to the gym and like getting on the treadmill and having your phone and or what just this idea, or taking a class and just kind of like going through the motions, like or whatever it is, like that'll get you somewhere, but it's not the complete package.
Right.
Right. So we really like mindful movement is what kettlebells can like offer on top of crazy strength.
So let me ask this though, because the thing you just described, that feeling of like being in the moment and doing the workout and the day goes away. Have you had that dancing as well? And was it the same experience or was it like different than what you experienced when you're working out with the kettlebell?
It's different. I definitely have it with dance. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about dance is like you're just, you have to be focusing, especially if you're taking a class, right? They're throwing all this information at you and you're just like following along and you're like, you're just trying to get it and you're just going. So it is different. I think there's, how would I describe it as different? There's a bit, to me, a bit more, and this is just me probably, a bit more like discipline for me in the kettlebell, like to where I have to, I could easily be like, yeah, I'm not going to do another one, but I'm like, I have to really dig deep and think like, okay, yes, I've got this in me. Or you know what? No, like that last set was a little sketch and I think my body's telling me that I need to like set it down and be done. So there's a, yeah, I don't know. It's just different.
It sounds like it might be more of a conscious thought process. Like it might
Maybe.
require a little bit more like tuning in, and maybe the dance process is a little bit more automatic. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe. And maybe it's just because I've done dance for so long, it became kind of just easy and automatic to me. Like I don't remember, maybe when I was back, little sixth grader, like jumping around trying to learn, maybe it was the same experience then. Because I've only been doing kettlebells like seriously, like I said, for I don't know, like 4 or 5 years, really. Like that's a fair amount of time, but that's not a ton of time compared to like when I was 12 years old.
Yeah, no, I would say there's a difference in those amounts of times.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this leads me to another question that I have. you are a small business owner. You and Oz own Iron Core Oceanside.
Mhm.
And are there any parallels for you between like being a small business owner and like producing a dance show?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of things that go into being a business owner. There, all of the like legal stuff and all that kind of stuff. That's like, I actually am lucky because Oz does most of that stuff. Has an accounting degree, so he does all that. Like, okay, great. I don't have to focus on that. Uh, but yeah, there's something about inspiring people that is similar.
Mm.
People come into the gym, they're brand new, they've never been there before. They're maybe trying something new that's like a skill that they're going to have to develop over time. And we have to, we have to get them to think that this is going to be worth it. Right. And that's similar to, um, when you create a work, like you create something and you're going to share it with an audience and you're going, damn, I hope people I hope people like it,
Mm.
like I put all this into it to express an idea. And now it's up to the audience whether or not they're going to enjoy it. Right. And it's similar to somebody walks in, like if it's not my business, right? If it's not my product, if you want to call it that, like I can be like, whatever, they didn't like it. Right. But when it's like, it's your own product, like maybe I actually put that class together. Right. And you're like hoping that people are inspired by it and they get out of it what you know what you think is going to be worthwhile for them. um and you teach it in a way, like I have sometimes that I teach and I'm like, oh yes, I was like hitting everything and I was like this and that and this and that. And I have sometimes and I'm like, oh, I just didn't do the greatest job teaching today. And so you kind of just worry about how, I guess you worry about how people leave after the experience in both scenarios.
Wow. Wow. And the teacher thing is interesting because like you teach all day, right?
Mhm.
And then it sounds like you go to the gym and you're still teaching. And
Right.
I'm just in awe that you're able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't teach as much as Oz for sure at the gym. I kind of fill in when I can. But yeah, I mean, it is. Um, some days it is a long day. um, but I do really appreciate teaching adults, because most of the people at the gym are adults. We have a few teenagers.
It's
But a lot of
cool, isn't it? Teaching adults, I think.
yeah, yeah. There's something there's something really nice about that it's just it's simpler in some ways. It's also different, like, when you're teaching for like a school, there's a certain way that I have to act potentially, right? And then at my own gym, I'm like, well, if you don't like me, like, like, so of course we're trying to, bring everybody in, but at the same time, it's like, this is the way that we run our business. And there's more pressure in some ways and less pressure in some ways,
Yeah.
to kind of, yeah, just bring what you bring. So
No, I definitely hear that.
yeah,
So what advice would you give to someone who's maybe thinking that they would like to start a business?
this is, yeah. Um, I think I wrote something about this recently. And what did I said, when we actually had been trying to start a business for a long time. And there are so many like people that tell you this and that, and oh, you should try this, or oh, you should do that. And you're going to hear a lot of ideas. And some of them can be great. But ultimately, I think the best thing is like to be true to what you want to do. Because we tried things thinking like, oh, well, we gotta, get more people in, or we've got to, try to, convert these people over to this or whatever, using sort of some of these tactics, so to speak. And they didn't feel good. It's like, this is not how we want to be. And so what we finally did is we kind of stripped everything down, and we were like, everything from like, this is our price, this is what we offer, this is, this is how we're going to talk about it. Like, and we were like, and if people want to do that, they'll show up. But I'm not going to try to bend to fit all of these like other categories of people. Right. So it's a little risky because you're wondering like, who am I potentially not reaching because I'm not playing all those games that they say you're supposed to do to get clients or what, for whatever reason, if it's, you're selling something or a product or some sort of service. But ultimately you feel better at the end of the day if you are truly being like true about who you are and what you're worth. That I think the hardest one was we raised our prices a bunch at one point. And because we felt like what we were giving away for too little. And we had to be like, you know what, people who believe in this type of service will pay this much for it. And those are the people we want. We want the people who understand how good this is. You know what I mean? So, and then we don't feel like we're giving ourselves away for too little, for free. Because you start to feel resentful when you're like, that person's only paying that. And then they're asking, they're taking all your energy and you're like, ah. So,
I know about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I do.
Yeah.
So what advice would you then give to somebody who is producing a show?
I would say get good people around you because you can't do it all. So, when I first started, like I said, there were 3 of us that got together and kind of started this thing. And we got really lucky that like one of us was really good at like doing websites and doing the business side of things. And one of them was really good at writing and kind of doing the that kind of creative promotional kind of side of stuff. And then I'm like good at organizing people and like figuring out logistics, right? And so the 3 of us came together and it was really nice that we didn't have to do it all and we trusted each other. And I would say most of every other show that I've produced, I've had that around me. For instance, with Art Produce, like Lynn at Art Produce and Nikki, they're just amazing to work with, right? And they take on what they take on, I take on what I take on. And we are supporting each other with a singular vision. So I would say that's probably the best advice, and it's going to be different for whatever project you're going to do, right? Like maybe somebody, for one, you might need somebody that's doing musical direction. Whereas for this show, we don't need that because we're using canned music and whatever, you know what I mean? So, so just making sure that you kind of set up some awesome people around you that can support and see the vision that you want to accomplish.
I love it. That's great.
So.
That's awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And I'm going to make sure everybody knows where they can find Iron Core Oceanside, which is the gym that you co-own and that you teach at. And then also your upcoming show, Sauced, at Art Produce in North Park. And there's a bunch of performances for that one, right? Yeah.
So there's 2 on Thursday, 3 on Friday, 3 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. All the shows are about 30 minutes and it's a fun experience. Again, these are like the last one was all about food. This is all about drinking. And you should just come and grab a drink and watch the show.
I love it. Who doesn't love a show about drinking?
Right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I guess we will talk again soon. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate yours too.